This is Amy with Flower Moxie, and I'm really excited about this tutorial. I'm going to show you how I recreated the dried installations that I did at the Rin space. And I was going to do that live as I was building it, but it was like a long day. I forgot my snips. I was flustered, so I was like, okay, let's just make this a legitimate tutorial and not on my phone. Okay, so what we're working with are a lot of palms, sun palms, fans. We have bleached ruscus, pampas grass, some really nice tinted bleached leather leaf, and all just types of fun bits and bobs. So what I'm using is this ratty ass, very much loved foam cage. For me, when it comes to building with dried, because they're so large, when I've tried to use chicken wire, it doesn't quite provide the stability. And then some of the items, they're so thin stemmed that it just falls into the chicken wire. So I end up fussing with it a lot more. So what I do is I have a little bucket of used cages that I repurpose and reuse. You can use them a lot as long as you don't get them wet. And so even if I was doing this for a wedding and I was using predominantly dried and maybe I was backfilling with a little bit of fresh, because I have to build it on site a few hours before the wedding, I would still put fresh flowers into this dried foam because it would be no different than, you know, having a waterless chicken wire situation. So I don't love using foam. I know the foam police is gonna come for me, and that's fine, but I have to use, you know, stuff that's gonna work for the wind and produce what I've promised my client. Okay, so I thought going into this, I hadn't worked with all dried until the Rin space, and when I went into it, I thought, okay, this is gonna be easy, I'll be in and out. And it was a little bit more challenging than what I thought. The great thing about working with dried is it's dried and you don't have to worry about something biting the dust. But a lot of it's very flat, just kind of like two-dimensional. And it's like you don't have quite the coverage. You don't have like the floofy stuff. So I'll show you how to kind of work around this. A lot of what I'm going to talk about is what I'm thinking through when kind of creating the formation and the composition. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with my fattiest palm, and I have to, as I'm building this, I have to stand back and look and see, okay, what's wonky about this, what isn't working. So I'm going to start with my largest, and yeah, I'm going to put this guy out to the side. And let's see here. I've got these really nice spears. So this is the general rule of thumb that I try to follow when I'm going to build something. I don't want things right on the same plane. Things look, you know, nice in clusters. And I also don't want to like put something to where it covers up what's happening with the piece that's going behind it. So we'll talk through that as I build, but that's kind of the challenging aspect. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this one. Now let's see. I like to get my bigger pieces out of the way. So let's bring in this spear. I'm gonna sink this a little bit lower. So I'm already covering some of my mechanics, and I didn't take away this nice curve, and I can still see this nice point. At this point, if I put this here, see how this is a little bit kind of uniformed, kind of same. I'm gonna hold off on this one. This will create a little bit too much same, so I'm gonna kind of focus on here and work my way into this area. So these are very linear. I'm gonna try to place a few, and I'm gonna come from behind. And what I want to avoid is having this perfect like V. That is what kind of makes this a little bit challenging. So it's getting things at different heights and layering it accordingly. So if I put this here, I kind of feel like this is breaking this up a little bit. I don't really know how I feel about it. I'm gonna leave it there for now. I might adjust it. putting this here is a little bit too same, so I'm gonna hold off on doing that. So this is where I'm doing the clusters. And a lot of times I will hold things out and kind of position it with my hand before actually inserting it into my foam. But I kind of like this here. I like the fact that these two will be kind of clustered together and we'll offset it a little bit and sink it down. The difficult thing is going to be covering up these mechanics. So I'm thinking about that, and as I'm adding things, that's a big part of what's on my mind. So I have this little plume of the pampas grass. It has a natural curve. So if I put it straight up, we see that curve in a very obvious way. But maybe if I kind of sink it down lower, place it in front, I've done a little bit of hiding on my mechanics, and it has like a natural gravitational flow. So I like this this sun palm with these sharper spears, because it breaks up what I have, and I feel like it complements this saw palmetto. I think I have that right. And how do we add pampas without it being perfectly symmetrical? That's what we want to avoid. So I kind of like this cluster right here. I'm going to try that out. So if you watch my other videos, another thing that I kind of keep in mind is odd numbers work better than even. So I had these two right here, and I went ahead and threw in that third one, and that's visually typically more pleasing to the eye. So these are the kind of things that I think of as I'm working through this. This gives an alternative shape, and this provides a really nice line without being obnoxious. At least I think so right now. When I get back, I might have a different vantage point, but I really like the way this covered the mechanics. This yellow is kind of complementing these two pieces, so we'll see how that looks. So at this point, I'm a little, I would say I'm a little lost on the spears. I don't know where the next one's going to go. So I'm gonna switch what I'm working with, because I feel like I've gotten in a lot of these larger anchor pieces, and I'm gonna bring in some other elements to see where this design goes. This is bleach ruscus, really hardy. I think it looks really nice with these tan natural items. Makes it pop a little bit more. So let's bring some of these in. As I hold this back here, I see that I'm not getting a lot for my money with this placement. That's another thing. If you're totally hiding something and it's just creating busyness, then it doesn't belong there. So I think it would look really nice. This may be a little bit too heavy, but I'm gonna keep it there for now. The fun thing about dried is you can just move things out of the way. Now I'm gonna work on bringing this towards me. Because dried is so flat, you can easily create this fan shape, but we want it to be a little bit more three-dimensional than that. So I'm gonna start bringing my placements forward. That not only kind of takes away that flat fan shape, but it also will work on covering these mechanics, which will be very important by the end. So see, I have this forage piece of dried hydrangea, and I can put it straight ahead, but then you can see I have these mechanics. So if I angle it a little bit and drive it in, I have, let's try that again. I have successfully covered up some of this cage. So I feel like I could do a lot of coverage really quick using this. This spear is a little bit big, and so what I can do is come in and cut it down a little bit. And I can still use this guy. So I'm going to kind of try to angle it to where I get the coverage. Okay. I feel like I have pretty much all of my large things in place. So now is kind of the fun part where you go back with these really thinned items, like your Italian ruscus, like this bleach baby's breath. If you want to have a little bit more floof, a little bit more coverage, I would recommend getting some just regular baby's breath. I don't think it's going to throw off the design that much. Additionally, I love to use this baby blue eucalyptus with the bleached. This is fantastic because it will dry out just fine. It doesn't need water. I mean, it will dry out and go crunchy on you, but I really like some of these sage colors with this bleached and dried. So I'm wrapping this up and I'm trying to, it's like you try to pull the design down, and I, put this really big spear down and off to the side. I felt like it needed a little bit of something, so I thought, well, I can bring in something visually lightweight. Pampas grass is very linear and it's not airy. I think this ruscus is a good choice, so I popped it right in the middle, and it was too much breaking up this really nice spear in this line. So I'm going to adjust it slightly. We're going to cut it a little bit shorter and maybe come on in, and we'll see how that looks. That way it's kind of visually pulled these pieces together, hopefully without breaking up this nice shape. So at the end, basically I'm just looking through my product, seeing if there's anything else I can add. It's always hard to know when to quit, especially with dried. I have these little leaves. I can't remember what they're called, but we do sell them. So what I probably want to try to avoid is sticking something straight up, because I kind of have this diagonal line and I have really nice movement. I don't want to come in with like an awkward piece. I felt this was angled enough, light enough to keep it. So I watched a few interior decorating tutorials to kind of help me, like if I'm trying to like, you know, redo my living room or something. And they kept mentioning, they're like, if you have something, then repeat it. So, you know, if you have black, let's say curtain rods, then you need to repeat that black someplace else, and that's what makes things look more cohesive. And so when I thought about that, I was like, yeah, I think we take that same thing into floral. So, you know, we have a few pieces and we're just trying to join things together instead of just putting like one statement in there that's just going to be awkward and visually disrupting. And when you have pampas grass, it can be really long, but the great thing is you can break it apart. So I always start at the top. Let me grab my snips. Cut the top plume off, and the nice thing is you can kind of cover it, like you won't have that blunt end because you can kind of cover it up. So you can cut these pieces down, and I do that a lot with bouquets, centerpieces, even large scale arrangements. So we're just kind of coming back in and making sure that we get that coverage that we want. Okay, at this point, I'm gonna call it done. I can sit and tweak this forever, which is why it took me longer than what I originally thought when I went to build those installations for her. But this is a really good, it's very reusable. Dried isn't exceptionally inexpensive. It is kind of pricey, but the great thing is you can repurpose it in your home. You can easily sell it. You can make, you know, smaller things and give them away as gifts. I love this dried, so you can easily mix the dried with the fresh. Just kind of follow those guidelines and just know that you've got to get back and look at something, go in there and tweak it and redo it. That's just part of the process, and it's really fun. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If this video helped you in any way, then make sure you like and subscribe. And I always take requests, so I love to hear what you're struggling with, what you want to build. That way when we come back to the studio, I can create a video that helps you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Okay, I wrapped this video up and I forgot my favorite part of this installation that I did. So Katie, who owns the Rin Space in Edmond, Oklahoma, she was like, I really love these happy flowers, if you could use these. And I was like, you know, no problem. I got them in and I was like, okay, these are like the smaller than a Q-tip, and I thought they're not gonna be seen. They actually became my favorite part of the entire thing. So I had like a huge gaggle of them. And basically at the very end, because they're so thin stemmed and they can break easily, I went back through and I just had them become little dancers. And I mean, I probably, you know, I wanna say that I only used like not even a half a bunch, like you get a ton of it. And it didn't take a lot. But I personally love this. Now I would say that if you're doing it on an arch outside, I would skip these, but if it's inside, these are worth buying because not only can you use them in this, you can put them in, you know, your bouquet. They're just like little embellishments that I personally didn't think would count. And when I got it all done, they were my favorite part. So I was so glad that she suggested them. So if you're having anything indoors, get these little happy flowers.